Hello, we are back on the Angel Face Magic Hour. Today we are here with Miami-based medium Sloan Tate. I already fucked it up. I'm gonna just start again.
No, but that's good. You should just keep it going because maybe we can speak to that on the recording.
Yeah, so we were just talking about before we started, we were just talking about what Sloan wants to be called. So their full name is Audrey Sloan Tate, and they were just kind of going through some reflection on what they wanted to be called. So if you want to share a little bit about what you decided, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, what a spirit has a funny way of starting us off like just the way that it's needed, right? So, um, yeah, the reason why my name kind of comes up like that is because like went through a phase of wanting to be called my first name Audrey, and it was a beautiful experience because I really pulled on all of the face of who Audrey is. The Audrey is the name of my grandmother's. So I always grew up using Audrey at like business offices and doctor's office and the dentist. And when I wrote my book, that was the moment that was like, what name is going to be on your book? And I know what my real name is, and everyone calls me and refers to me by my middle name, Sloan. And I was going, as us mediums often do, we go through different journeys. And I was just like being thrown Audrey everywhere I was going. And I really wanted to embody and feel what that would feel like to be called Audrey. And so I did go on that journey, and my author name is Audrey. And I've also found that I love connecting with people, and like it's crazy. Changing your name is like a big deal, and people really want to relate to you in a certain way. And I did like a lot of like research on it and did some polls, and a lot of people love Sloan. They felt comfortable. That's how they identified with me. And I've done a lot of work in mindfulness and communities, and everyone knows me as Sloan. So it was a beautiful experience because I got to experience the Audrey. Audrey is definitely very a part of me, and I've come home to Sloan and loving being called Sloan. There's 3 grandmothers that I'm named after
In your
under
family.
Audrey. Yeah. So they were alive when I was born. And so I was Sloan because there were so many Audreys already. And Sloan is also a family name as well. So I like being, I think I really, as I move more into making an industry that is already extremely intimidating, mediumship, making that approachable to people, like I want them also to identify to me as Sloan. And I had just like a big experience where I was like, all I want to do is for people to call me Sloan and to feel that name again. And so I've shifted into that, but I still have both. Like I'm still in the same place I was before all of this stuff happened. So I don't know if that clears up the confusion, or if anyone else listening to this has ever had the name journey. If you're named by your middle name, but like on your credit card, it's always Audrey. So it's like my official name.
What is
Name
Sloan? What does Sloan mean? Do you know?
That's so interesting you say this. Sloan means gathering of warriors. So
Oh,
if
that's
you've ever been
badass.
to England, it's the name that is it's like Sloan Square in England, Sloan Circle or whatever. It's called Sloan Square, but it's spelled with an E. My name's not doesn't have that, but it was a place where all the warriors would gather before they would go out into battle. So I love that. And that's very much of like what my work is and my identity is. It's breaking through these limiting beliefs that exist in society.
Yes, that feels very fitting for you.
Warriors, spiritual warriors.
Yes. Yeah. So I met Sloan I don't know, a couple years ago, like just through Instagram, through Lauren, who was on the podcast last month. And they're like besties, best friends, both in Miami. And so I just found her through Lauren, and then I took a class. So she does a psychic or a mediumship development circle. So I got to sit in that, and it was a really good experience. But if you want to share a little bit about what the spiritual development circle is all about.
Yeah, sure. The spiritual development circle is a bi-weekly, or not bi-weekly, it's every other week, that we meet and we work. It's a working circle and we practice mediumship. It's really amazing. It's a 6-month commitment. So if you can imagine what can happen in 6 months, your whole life can change, as sitting in the power of spirit and communicating messages and receiving messages like has a huge impact on your life. And within that 6 weeks, like you truly become confident and invincible of everything that the world comes at you with.
Yeah, and I think it was really cool for me because like I've been, doing readings for a while, but it was really cool to be able to practice with other people, especially around mediumship, because that was something I was just kind of like exploring a little bit and seeing how it works for me. So I felt like it was really great to get like feedback from everyone in the group and be able to like even in the circle. I thought it was interesting because someone will be doing a reading, and then for me it was kind of like, okay, I'm picking up that information that they're also picking up, so it helped me receive like confirmation just seeing other people work, like, oh, okay, like that makes sense, I'm getting that too. And just seeing how other people perceive things was really helpful. So I
Yeah.
think a lot of different types of people could benefit, not necessarily like only people who want to be like working mediums.
Yeah. I mean, you have your circle too. I know. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I get off on. I love it. I love when people come in the circle that feel kind of like, I don't know why I signed up to this, but I'm here, not really feeling as if they are gifted. Um and then being surprised, just absolutely being shook when the information they're pulling is correct. And it's always correct. It's always correct. Like it's always correct. It's the fact that when you get information, and sometimes we can be like, it's scattered, I don't feel anything, right? And you can also recognize like, hey, like maybe let's just check in first. Like, was this the character of the spirit that is coming through? And you can ask whoever that's coming through for, like all of these things take personality and all these little different little baby details that you're actually not in control of, that just channeling through you, whether you're trying or you're not. So it's beautiful to witness their power and being like, oh, wow, I can do this, which I think is needed in the world now, because like a lot of people feel as if they're crazy or give away their power to other people, other spiritual teachers, feeling like they know the answer and the answer doesn't exist in me. And it's like, absolutely not. Like the answer exists inside of you. Like everyone is on their own journey, and truly only you can give and feed that information back to yourself. And I think mediumship is such a great way to prove that, like that life does exist after life, and it affects you, like unseen energy, like it affects you throughout your day and in your relationships and your spaces that we're in, people. And we don't have to be a victim to it. Like it can be a power if you will allow it and be willing to face it.
Yeah. And I think like a lot of people feel doubt when they're doing like a reading from themselves. and like being in a development circle, I feel like is really helpful to see like, okay, I'm actually getting the right answers. And then it helps you like trust yourself more when you're
Yeah.
doing work for yourself. Cause it's so easy to have to be like in your own mind of like, am I just making all this shit up?
Well, and
Yeah.
that's what like we're led to believe. It's like all of this, media, advertisements, even online, there's so many launches that we get into. We can get so entangled into all of those connections and feeling as if we need something outside of ourselves when everything we need is right in this moment. And I know that mediumship, like I talk so broadly about mediumship. I'm definitely one of those mediums that like attaches like literally everything to mediumship because like it's like such a route, a journey to get there. It's not just like showing up and being able to do a reading or even sitting in an SDC in the spiritual development circle. It's really mediumship has like you're preparing and you're connected to spirits throughout your day, throughout everything that you're doing. And it's not about what's happening when you're in meditation. It's more what's happening in the heat of the moment or when you're driving your car or like when you're in your day to day, when you're truly living out your life. It's not about seeking the messages, but more living the message, really living your message and then watching as the omens, the symbols, the messages all come through that. And I think that mediumship is such a perfect way to encapsulize, like, is that the right word? To capture
Encapsulate.
all of that because you can't really grow as a medium unless you're truly understanding your own signs and messages, your own connection with your intuition, really understanding the relationship with yourself so you can understand what is not your energy. And
Yeah.
just to be clear for anyone listening this, I know like there's psychic energy and then there's mediumship, and mediumship is specifically speaking with people that have crossed over. So when I'm talking about someone that's crossed over, I'm talking about the afterlife, like anyone that's passed, once lived here on earth that died. And the difference between and the real difference with mediumship is like, and why I go towards that and work in that realm more is because you can get evidence for it. And when you get evidence, like clear evidence, like like I did a reading, I guess it was yesterday. Did one over the weekend. And I like picked up board games and like, it instantly shot this person back into where like board games was like a big connection with the spirit that was coming through, right? And so when you're able to get these like evidence that like I would never have freaking guessed that this like person was into board games, like everything that I was getting from this person seemed like he wasn't that person, but it just flew through me and connected and landed. So when you're able to get that evidence, which is interesting because we're like not really here to prove. I'm like never here to prove my gifts, right? Like ever. Like I don't even really care about the evidence. Like I don't even really care about the symbols and the messages. Like I more just like love the connection. I just love the act of expressing something that feels so like deep inside of me that wants to express. And I love sharing that platform with other people to learn how to express that and to not care about like the evidence and things that are getting through. But at the end, all in that sentence, like receiving the evidence also gives something tangible that we can work with and we can understand that it is truth, it's real. And I think it grounds it. I don't think it totally grounds a spiritual practice. Like it makes something tangible. Um, and I think symbols and messages that are used are like little tiny time capsules that, like, if you're ever receiving a reading, or even when you're in SCC, like you saying that you pick up things that other people are experiencing and feeling, even when you're not the one reading them, it's like that information's there, right? Like that flow's coming through. And so it's very omnipresent, it's very loving. Like messages can also come to you that, like, even if they're not directly talking to you, right? And what I think is cool about mediumship too is that there's like prana, there's chi, life force energy that flows through when we connect, even in psychic work, like mediumship. When you really lock into that higher wisdom, that higher love, not it really is felt, right? Like if you get like a good reading, you feel it.
It's like you can feel different sense. Well, for me, I definitely feel it. I'm very physical, like I receive very physically, but I feel like it's a very strong, like a strong difference between just a regular conversation and someone giving you a message. Like you can perceive that. And you also practice Reiki, which is energy healing. How would you describe like the difference between those energies, like how they feel when you're connecting with mediumship or with Reiki?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, when you're in the SDC circle and someone calls on you, like someone's picking up your spirit, like, have you ever had those feelings where you just like know it's coming to you? Like, you're getting the message before you even get it, like that to
Yes,
me.
I nod in my head. I'm like, I forget, like there's not a video. Yes. Yes, I have experienced that. Is an
Yeah,
audio podcast.
I think those are like those feelings that yeah, you're so funny.
Even before like I get on a conversation, like a call, like getting on this call, I'm like, I feel like, oh, like energy's coming through, like I'm gonna talk about something important. Like
Yeah,
it's like a just a
premonition.
different vibration. Yeah.
Like I get premonitions. Like even if I go into a medium circle, like not SEC, but like if I'm stepping into a mentor circle or something, I feel the message before it's given. Or even when I go in one-on-ones, like the energy is so omnipresent because spirit doesn't work with the same time that we work with, that it's like I can feel it before it's coming, kind of information. And also like I literally feel it, like I get chills down my spine. I know also when I'm like being called to speak or a spirit moves through me, because like I get spirit sweats. I sweat, which is disgusting.
Yeah, I feel that. I get sweaty and cold, like cold chills and things like that.
Yeah, I'll
Or
get
goosebumps.
chills. I also will just get like really hot. Like I feel like I'm about to explode, and if I don't share it, like I'm just gonna lose my mind. So I'll get like those kind of things as well. But going back to the Holy Fire Reiki, I do practice Holy Fire Reiki, and I think my practice with it is a little bit different because I love to really, I'm working with mediumship, but what's so interesting about the mediumship that I work with is that like I don't just work with people that are only doing mediumship. Most of my clients are like people that work in industry, like I've had health and wellness people, fitness people. I have a lot of lawyers that I work with, and real estate agents,
Yeah,
and
you have like business
yeah, like
professionals.
it's funny,
As
but
clients.
it's great. Like I think it's genius. Like for a lawyer to be practicing mediumship, like that should almost be illegal. It's just like
Yeah,
so
it's a
good.
great idea.
Like it's just genius, especially with real estate agents, and like just seeing where they were like able to take it. I'm like, Jesus, I mean, millions and millions and millions of dollars like on the line. And these people are like texting me like, I had a feeling a business was deal with, they're like telling me all these like crazy deals that they're doing, and they're like so intuition based. Like one real estate agent told me that she felt something was off, and she like called in and she figured it all out. And it was all because she woke up and heard a voice in the morning, her spirit guide come through. And I was like, wow, I have chills like thinking about that. And it was like literally like $7 million on the line. Like it was insane. But I love hearing those stories, and that you can apply this anywhere in your life, and that like this is the way of the new earth. And it is the way of the new earth. It's the way that we're now creating. And I think that the Holy Fire Reiki is such a great way to capitalize on that prana energy. Just for me, it's like a way to funnel and target like different areas of my life, my body, my home, you know, anything physical, and to use the different symbols and messages to really like elevate the message, the purpose, the service that I look forward to the most. And Holy Fire Reiki is interesting because it's like the opposite of mediumship, where in mediumship, like I'm automatically telling you what I'm experiencing. You definitely want to be the person that's probably talking less in a reading, versus in Holy Fire Reiki, we always have, as you know, we share first, right? The person that's receiving shares first. And I, you know, just studying from the yoga Vedanta backgrounds, I know that it's important for us, especially coming out of meditation, which mediumship is like being in the experience with me. And then Holy Fire Reiki is more you being inwardly in your own experience, and me being in that experience with you. However, like both are source, you know, both are guided. However, Holy Fire Reiki, I feel, is a little bit more internal, you having your own experience and being like a spiritual activation in your body. And the and I don't know where I was going with that, but you know, like that's really the gist of it, is that all of it's like so super supportive. I just love, like I love mediumship. I love being able to access this and share it with other people.
Yeah, I think Reiki, like, I think because for me, I process things so physically, like they have a different feeling in my body. Like if I'm practicing Reiki or like sending Reiki out with a client, it feels mm, like spiky almost, or if you were to look at like audio waves, like waves, that's what it looks or feels like to me. And then the mediumship feels more like a constant stream where it's more solid. I don't know why, but that's why
Yeah.
it feels like they're coming from the same place, but it's just like a different way to access it or something.
Yeah, I think it's just different services. Like mediumship is, I feel also like during quarantine that I'm not really able, I feel that a little capped by quarantine and all of the barriers that were put in by like being in person, because working on platform in or working on a stage in mediumship is really powerful when you have a packed room and you can pull in spirits and like really channel energy and receive information at like really high paced rates. Like I think that's like just so powerful. And of course those situations are a lot more limited now. And then the Holy Fire Reiki is like just a healing experience. You know, when I went to Arthur Findlay College, which is a medium school, there was mediumship there, like platform work and all of that, and one-on-one work. And then there was also trans healing, and that trans healing is, you know, spiritualism. Arthur Findlay College is a part of spiritualism, which is like an organization in mediumship. There's different kinds of mediumship. if anyone's listening to this, and that's one of the kinds, and they actually come from a church. So the church based, they have like a church service, and then they like read.
Yeah, like the ministers are the mediums,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. But a big part of it is trans healing, where they use spirit to move through their body as like a vessel so it's very similar to Reiki. Although like from what I've never done anything in trans healing except for like receive it. So I don't know if there's like symbols and things like that that's going on. But I have practiced it. But I've never like gotten certified in it. But I've never taken like a program specific for it, but I've definitely worked with it, and it just feels like very similar, I think. But I mean, honestly, I've never experienced anything like Holy Fire Reiki. And of course, when I met Lauren, I was like, I've never met anyone like you. And like, I don't know what fun fact, she like, when I first met her, I went to a friend's mediumship, like reading. It was like a platform, like a reading on like in this meditation center, and she was sitting in the front, and I was like literally saw myself. She was like overalls, big hair, like that was how I was dressing back then. And she invited me in for a Holy Fire Reiki session, and it was just like I had done Reiki before. I was certified in Usai, and I went to regular Reiki circles when I first started like really waking up and having these big experiences and exploring with meditation. And when I was doing meditation, I was like, oh my God, I'm like experiencing all these things. And so the Reiki was like a big support system in that. And then when I met Lauren, like years later, like it was like 5 years later, I was just like, what is this? Like had never experienced anything like that. So,
And you just did your Karuna training?
yeah, I just now did my Karuna training. So there's like no other training for me,
Another next level.
which is weird. Cause I'm like, I love a training.
Well,
Now
you'll
I
just have to
can only
ask
offer
God
them.
directly for the training.
Yeah.
You'll get
I
your
can
update.
upgrade myself and I can offer them trainings. But yeah, Karuna was powerful, and so much has happened around that like has really shifted and
When was
uplifted.
that? Like super recently, right?
Yeah, that was this weekend.
Oh, okay. Well, 2 days ago. Yes. Yeah, it's so interesting. So I'm gonna do a whole podcast about Reiki, but just so people know, Karuna Reiki is like a different type of Reiki, and there's a bunch of different symbols associated with it. And so you do these things they call ignitions. And basically it's kind of like a meditation, and you receive like an attunement upgrade to your energy so that you can then use the symbols and connect with the energy. But it's super powerful, super interesting.
Yeah,
And
it's one of the most powerful things I've ever experienced, like for sure. Just it's profound what comes up in those Holy Fire Reiki sessions. And I mean, I think anyone that like yeah, showing up to a mediumship session or whatever is like totally, it's nerve-wracking. You never know what's going to come up, and to have someone truly see you, because like that's what a medium session is. It's the mother's tongue, like
there's no hiding. Yeah.
and there's no hiding. And like I could tell you that I've gone into readings that like triggered the hell out of me, and you're just like kind of have to take it. But like it's not about taking, it's also like not taking things personal, because it doesn't always have to do with you or even the way that it comes out, like. But I think if you're definitely triggered about something, then like that's something to look at. But the Holy Fire Reiki just feels like so loving, and I think it's definitely really vulnerable to allow someone to give you Holy Fire Reiki, because I feel when I'm in that state, you feel so connected to this like higher power, and you really get to bond without judgment, or you really see everything too. And I've just seen an amazing, amazing. I love Holy Fire Reiki. I think what's the difference between Holy Fire Reiki and mediumship is that, like, yeah, in Holy Fire Reiki, if you do a Reiki session with me, which is not like, I only offer it to my one-on-one coach clients because it's that sacred to me. But like, I still pick up mediumship, not always, but I will. And my messages always come through, always through the Holy Fire Reiki. But I think it's really approachable way for people to work with spirit. Like, it's not like people, I think, genuinely feel safer with their eyes closed, and they can lay down, turn off their camera, and like, they don't have to do anything, like, no one's here to prove anything. They get to have their own feelings. There's no, I think there's less expectations. Like, now and tell me what you think, because like, you're in the same realm, but I think there's a lot of pressure that's been put on the name medium, like, because of so much of like the entertainment industry that puts like mediums on these like pedestals, that, and with the editing and, kind of just make it look like something that maybe it's not, um and that people have these expectations with mediumship. And sometimes, no, not sometimes, like, I'm just gonna straight up say, like, all the time, if you're coming into an expectation with any like healing experience or even mediumship, which is the healing experience, like, you're really just like set up for doomsday.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, like, with energy healing, they might have less expectations because it's not as like familiar to them, which I think some people, that might be intimidating. But I feel like there's fear around mediumship, like people have projected a lot of fear, or that it's like yeah, extravagant, like over the top, like ghost adventures type of shit.
Yeah.
We're gonna be like
Oh
opening
my
these boxes to like another demonic portal or some shit.
Yeah. And I mean,
So
that's why I use the name medium, because I want to just freaking like shake it up and be like, this is okay. Like, um, I think when my brother died, like, that was that moment where I was like, I'm just gonna like call myself a medium and like claim crazy and like push through this and like, and figure out like, and just say like, I can be myself and be out and out and be open, because I am a medium. Like, that's the way to,
sorry if you don't like it.
yeah, like, I feel like it's like the best way to like dumb down this like divine energy that like has no words. Like, that's, to me, the best description that I can give mankind for the kind of experiences that I've been experiencing since I was a child. And I think that there's a lot of mediums out in the world, and they're like terrified of it. Like, I honestly think that mediumship is kind of like the next like revolution. Like, honestly, I think that mediums a lot of times are, I mean, I come from the South, so a lot of my perspectives and things I've had to break through were my own objections to this. And like, I said medium, and I'm like, I'm gonna claim this, like, I was like claiming crazy, right? But like, I was literally deciding on going on this journey of clearing all my like derogatory beliefs towards mediumship in this work, because I had been raised that this was like not good, and it was like the devil's work. Like, I literally thought I was joining like a devil's cult when I went to my first Reiki circle. Like, I was like, for sure, like, but I don't know. There's like, I was like, but I know, I do know for sure that there's a pull so strong that I need to sit in this circle. And I remember being like, I need to sit in
The
circles.
devil's
I need to
calling
sit in
you.
circles. Yeah, like, that was like total devil's work, and was like not okay. And, and was everything against like what I was trying to be. And then I was like, just surrender to it. And, it's just how life works, I guess.
And there's mediumship like in your family. Like I know your mother practices like or has a gift. Could you talk about that? Like they know it's real, but they don't accept it, or
Yeah, my
is it
mom
just like
accepts,
more about the people around
yeah, my
the
mom accepts it. She's practicing. She takes on clients. She's pretty much my like uh my inspiration. She's come in the SDC circle. She's taught in the spiritual development circle before. She was
Oh,
the first one to like open up. She like I don't always like telling her story, but I will say that she did go through a divorce, and we all went through like a really big tragedy in my family. And my mom like all of a sudden started like collecting stones, and like I think she went to a medium and like started like just practicing it. She always was really spiritual in the church, like and always really connected to nature, and we always talked about my dreams and stuff going on. But like I don't think we really knew what a medium was growing up, especially in Tennessee,
didn't have like the
on the horse
language for
farm.
that.
Yeah, like, but we definitely were practicing it for sure. Like especially growing up on a huge farm, like the farm was big. We had a horse farm, and there was a lot of like death growing up, and there was a lot of conversation about where did the horses go when they die, and the dogs that die, just like a big farm, and a lot of beings on that farm, and you really get to see that cycle of life. And so, there's a lot of that growing up, and we faced that as a child. And so there was conversations about it, like, and dreams and things like that. And then same with my dad, he's in the military. And so I like always grew up him telling me ghost stories. And actually, when my parents got together, they were not together for very long. I totally believe, like, I'm just one of those souls that pulled them together. And when they were together, like, they don't have much in common, but one thing they do have in common is their spirituality. So they would like often talk about spirits and ghosts and stuff like that. That was like something they always took in common. And my dad always saw spirit. He's like seen spirits all his life. Like he loves ghost stories. After he retired from the military, he was a police officer. And so he knew every haunted building in the town, like would take us in it. He always loved old buildings. Like, I mean, like I remember me and my sisters going to like more like Civil War, like battlefields and things like that. And like buildings that were like in our town, and just like standing in them. And he's always lived in like old buildings, like, I mean, like 100 years old. Like he just loves that stuff, all the big signs of being intuitive. And I think that like me actually claiming it and owning it is a little bit different than the way that they live their lives, just because it's like the torch is passing. I definitely work with a lot of clients, and I think that's a powerful point in any of my like one-on-one coaching or in like programs, is like actually realizing that being spiritual is really hereditary, and you can see it down your family line pretty clearly if you know where to look. And that, a lot of people like, be conscious of your family. Like if someone's struggling with addiction and severe anxiety, mental illness, like any of those kind of things, like those are just spiritual communications that are like not being communicated in some way. And I strongly believe that. I'm not a doctor. Just like my own personal experience with it. Like I really feel that like, I mean, I feel that like I have a close relative that's the same age as me, who's grown up with me and has been like diagnosed with a slew of stuff. Um, and I'm a medium. you know, literally been like, I have a family member that's like same age as me, very parallel lives, was diagnosed with like schizophrenia, been in and out of like rehab centers. And like, I'm like, I look at them and I'm like, you're literally a reflection of me. Like, you know, and I also feel that I use it to my advantage, if that makes sense. Like I still hear voices, I talk to people, like I communicate and live in my little world, and I you know, use it to catapult me forward. I don't have any fear around it. I just like I use it. Like I know it's a power, and I know that I'm in control of it. And I think that that's really the big difference from these things. And I also think that there's like communities of people that keep people sick as well. Like that are like, oh, this person's an addict, you know, like, and we hold them small because of the actions maybe they've taken in the past. And that can be really hard to overcome. But there's a lot of variables that keep people that, because I know for me personally, like having this gifts and ability, like I've definitely been diagnosed with a lot of disorders. And I mean, I've been almost like 15 years off of Western medicine completely. Not that I'm like for or against it. I think you've got to
It's
like
your
do what you
decision. I
do.
feel the same
Yeah.
way.
But I was definitely on like antidepressants, mood stabilizers, like a lot of things like that, that I just was like, there was no end in sight. Like literally the like doctors were like, yeah, like you're just gonna like live like this forever. Like you can't, you know, be off of, like I remember telling a doctor, telling my mom that like I could never live off of Adderall. I'm like, what? I'm just gonna live on Adderall for the rest of my life. Like I
Your
think
teeth are gonna fall out.
I was like, this is like a hard drug. And like becoming addicted to it, you know, and like, and for me, when my great grandmother passed, that was like my first like really big death. I was like, there's no way that I'm going to continue like medicating myself just to function. Like it just became this point where I didn't even know who I was. And I was trying to numb out mediumship, but like every time I took medicine, I got such extreme anxiety, and I was still hearing voices. Like I never stopped like hearing voices and connecting to all these different energies. It was like I was like ignoring it, pretending like it wasn't there, but just like taking it all in and like not really being conscious or responsible with this ability, you know, like it was more that I was just feeding myself Adderall to just keep myself pounding the pavement. And, you know, I'm a projector in human design just like you are. And that's like the most toxic thing you can ever do as a projector. Cause we're like where, you know, if you're listening, you haven't studied human design, like I definitely suggest you look it up, because if you're a projector, like that to me is like the
We
most
need to
groundbreaking
rest.
fucking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit, like all this time it makes fucking sense. Like, you know, but like a projector doesn't have consistent energy, and it's really important for us. Oh, I just like spit everywhere. But it's important for us to like be aware of our like energy levels and ride the cycles that we're in and not ignore them and pound them out with Adderall, you know. Which I'd been doing by prescribed by doctors. So like getting back to that like family element, you know, there's a lot that can be hidden by these gifts, but also I think that more than all of that, like medication and stuff that was going on, I definitely think, by the way, like I felt the most relative to like Harry Potter. Like I think that's how it was raised, like me growing up. Like I was a very powerful child. Like I had a lot of energy, you know, like I was strong, piercing, like, so I'm not just like saying that like, you know, I was like this angel and like people like corrupted me. Like I was a wild child.
Well,
And
it's like learning how to have a framework for all the information that's coming in. Like when you're a kid, like it's like you don't understand what all these things mean. And then just where we live, it's like America is like, oh, you don't understand what's going on with you. Well, we put you into some kind of category and give you something to help you
yeah,
like be normal like everyone else.
yeah.
But I think it takes a while to have some kind of like way to understand what's coming in, like the circle that you do. And like anyone who has a chance to work like a mentor or someone, I think it's so valuable because it helps you like understand things that maybe you thought were dysfunctional or like not normal, but they really are like, yeah, superpowers, things that you could shift and change and use rather than like be fearful of.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the whole like you're giving your power away when you're fearful of it. Like you're fearing dark energy. Like
You
don't
are the dark energy that you
like,
fear.
come on.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's this element of like, especially being a child, and I'm sure you can relate to this, is like me owning the things that once like I thought was a curse, like I hated about myself. Like I knew I heard voices. I knew I talked to myself. Like I had been to doctors. My mom had like seen me, like got me evaluated. Like I was well equipped that like I was different. Like I felt it. I really felt like I was different. And when I actually started to own it and stopped letting people tame me, like pretend like they were taming me. And I'm just like, no, you can't tame me. Like I'm wild and that's who I am. And I'm going to accept and really be authentic to who I am. And that includes these spiritual gifts. And I'm also passionate about it. I'm going to like talk about it with people. It really started to trigger. I noticed that I trigger people and like I can walk in a room and still now like I can walk in a room and someone may not feel comfortable. Like it's not that they don't feel comfortable. It's like, oh, like who is this girl? Well, who's this woman? I get this a lot even on my social media. Like, like I just say what I want to say. It's like my fun platform to like also just rage a little, and people get triggered by it. And I think, and I know we have the same, like you get a lot of the weird messages like I do on
Christian,
Instagram.
the
Can we like
Christian
talk about
haters,
that for a second? Like
the book
getting
club.
saved
Yeah.
on Instagram.
It's
Yeah.
really interesting. Like anytime, because most of the time my posts will stay like pretty much to the people who follow me, I think, because they think I'm like crazy or something, so they don't push me out. That's a whole nother story. But when it gets to like a point where like people are seeing it who aren't just people who already follow me, it's like I get so many comments from either like men who are like, what's this liberal doing again? Or like Christian people who are like, please repent, like Jesus loves you. I'm like, I connect to Jesus all the time. We're friends. Like, I know he loves me. It's just a very interesting thing that like, oh yeah, once a certain amount of people will see it, it's inevitable. There are people on the internet who will not like it.
I mean, you know what? Like I lost a lot of friends being a medium. Like I really did. There was people that didn't like what I was doing, didn't understand it. Some people I just didn't feel comfortable telling what I did. And I was like, you know, um, so I'm like, I just think that all of the big game changers in the world and big influences that really shift society were absolutely hated. They were bombed. They were
I
like
mean, Jesus himself.
arrested. Yeah, like Jesus him freaking self. Like everyone loves Jesus now, but like trust me, if you lived back then, you probably would have like hated him, like so I think I've always been super aware of that. I think I've definitely had a connection with Jesus in an altered life, especially being in conservative upbringing in the Baptist churches and like looking at people and they're like full Lily Pulitzer outfits. And I was like, yeah, if Jesus walked in here with like a leopard right now, you would like die. Like you would scream and like literally, like I remember just hearing Bible verses and looking around at all the like white people stuffed in under a temple, and I'm like something feels off because like, how can we be like, I'm like, I would get like upset about it as a child. Like, why are these teachings like first off, like no one in the Bible was like white.
No, it's like
And
the
like,
Middle East.
yeah, and like the one area of the world that like people in the South like hate more than anything, like Middle Eastern, like it's just like it was such like a contrast, and like none of it made sense to me at all. But also if you like study through the study of Jesus through the South, they actually used it as like a reinforcement of slavery,
That makes sense.
and like a belief system. And there's a really good book by Robert Long. It's like White for Too Long. It's a book. It's really good, and it really breaks down like in a very, very
Mm.
like thesis, like really good. It breaks down those associations and how that we have been manipulated by religion to believe in like social order, and
I'm gonna
and
read
that's
that.
happened in like so many generations. That's why we like, religion can be a little bit iffy for some people. I'm not like here for whatever gets me lit, but and sometimes that can probably be a church service. But I definitely, it's wow, those messages are really, really, really funny and interesting. And like I think it's interesting because I feel the most connected to Jesus that I've ever felt in my entire life. Like I feel as if I've had many, many experiences that totally explain and complete the scriptures that I've read about Jesus growing up, and the character of who he is. Like I feel as if I feel totally complete on really witnessing, experiencing him, being able to like lean on him and to really utilize his power to such great heights, more than I did being in a church. Um, and and I feel as if I understand a lot of Christ consciousness. I also studied a lot of the Gnostic texts and also the Book of Mary. I can definitely get down on some feminist theology. Like I could eat that alive. But there's so many different variations, and I think we like can't just like hate on religion, but like it definitely has been used for many, many centuries, eras, and like for control of our minds. And I think that's where we've got to like be more sensitive. But like it is really interesting that so many people like are like terrified of mediumship. And you actually wrote this, and I thought it was like, it's just like so simple. You're like, I don't know if like teaching people how to think for themselves is like the devil's work, then like
It doesn't make sense. Like people literally get mad when I post like a breathing exercise. I'm like, this is so stupid because it's somehow connected to evil, like because you're not part of the church. Like someone could be saying the exact same thing as me if they're wearing like a nice suit and they're wearing a cross. Like people love that, but
yeah.
not from someone who believes in aliens, I guess.
Well, it's interesting. I saw this like article, like there's this like they're not what is it? The
The
Mark
televangelists.
televangelist. Yeah, like the televangelist like really spoke up against astral travel, and really created this like fear of like reaching the third heaven, even though it's like in the Bible about like, the third heaven where Jesus lives. And I was like, well, damn, I'm astral traveling to the 12th heaven,
Yeah,
like
what are we doing?
like I feel really good here, and I like don't know, and I like feel like it's like I have like so much more zest to my life from being accessing these. But there's definitely this big fear of astral travel, like any of that stuff is definitely not God's works in their eyes. So I don't know. I mean, I've had people that I know. Have you ever had someone that try to save you?
No, but I don't have a lot of religious friends. But I have had people, like one time I was at where was it? It was in Portland, like a bookstore there. And I was like, look, they have a big spirituality section. So I was looking at like books about like angel numbers and stuff. And this like young girl was like shaking, and she came up to me and like asked to pray for me. And like I was like, oh sure. And she prayed over me. And she was like, do you really believe in this stuff? I was like, oh yeah, like you know, I love to connect. I wasn't like, oh, I'm a medium, but I was like, oh yeah, I like love to connect. And she like was shaking. It was really funny to me. But I haven't had anyone I know. I feel like a lot of people growing up, I didn't know as much people who go to church all the time. Just people who
Yeah.
go like on like family, like holidays or like communion or whatever.
Yeah. It's
A
just
lot of Catholics in where I grew up.
yeah. I just think like the people that reach out to me like are not well.
Yeah, I'm concerned.
I don't know. I just like,
I'm like, why are you so worried about like someone you don't like, especially that girl? It's like, you don't even know me. Why are you so concerned?
and you have like, but I think it's interesting because it's like no one, the trolls like never have like public pages. Like they're always private. They have like no, like less than 100 followers. Like, and I'm like, you know, it's so easy to hate people that are like out here being vulnerable, sharing content, being of service, like really like being authentic with myself. It's like so easy. And I see myself doing it too. Like I'm going to turn that around too. And when it's like, so great. It's so easy to critique someone's reels and stuff, you know, but like when you're actually doing it, like I keep my mouth shut because like I know how much work goes into that, you know, like, and like I just think it's so easy to project on people that are actually doing it. And now, like, I understand like the cycle of a hater because they're stagnant energy and then like wanting to do something that
A lot of it's like jealousy almost. I don't know about the Christian haters, but I feel like a lot of people have like jealousy and not even like, oh, that you're doing something want to do, but like that you feel okay, like talking and like sharing, and they're like too scared to do that.
Well, I think that goes back to the, like me walking to a room and like triggering people naturally. It's like, how can she be so free? Like, how can she be so free? I mean, like, even like dating, it's like, oh my God, like people will ask me, like, you know, it's like, how can you think like that? Or like they believe that, like, what I get a lot of notion of, like, when I really have conversation with people that have like disagreements with the way that like I function or the way they project onto my life is that they feel as if like I'm just like this privileged woman that just thinks positively through life. And I'm like, honey.
I'd be crying. I'd be crying a lot.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work to like feel good, you know. It takes a lot of work.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know like I know on the internet it's like it's almost as if people want to see more of like people doing bad or like tragedy or like sadness. Like that is what gets the clicks. So that's what gets pushed out. And then people like that, yeah, that brings them more peace than like seeing someone like happy. I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but
Well,
it's something.
and that's so one of my friends actually, she's like creating this big movement too. And she said, if you want to get like the secret to getting like big followings is to tag your haters. So I tried it and it worked. Like the haters are so much more vocal than your
Yeah,
lovers.
you get like way more, yeah, like TikTok. It's so much of people like seeing someone's video and then like reposting it and like critiquing it and being like, well, this person's wrong, blah blah blah, and you get like so many more views on that than like your original opinions.
Yeah.
Like
It's just hard for me to
much.
handle. It's a little much for me. Like literally like me drinking my coffee in the morning and getting a message in that like, look at this schizo who thinks she's like,
Yeah, I get a lot of mental illness comments.
yeah, like I'm
like, what of it?
Like easy. I'm like just gonna like drink my coffee first. Like, good God, like this is too much. It's like a lot of energy for me. Like I can't, and I'm like, I always think that it doesn't bother me, but then like after a while, I like recognize that like I've already like dropped into like kind of like a low frequency, just like being in that energy. But I think that's been a little bit of my own choice through this experience, is that like I really felt like I needed to like fight my way into mediumship, and like I needed to like, and I think that's something I've really let go, and I really just like don't, and I don't receive that anymore. But that was like for a while, like when, especially when I was when reels definitely bring that up, because like so many people watch a reel, and I just like, and so many people are really like literally raised like what we're doing is like bad work, and so
Yeah,
they
it's
like
like evil.
want to
Yeah.
call it out. And like I totally relate, I understand, I like I like have compassion, and I think that like um and I get it, like I get where they're coming from. And also like it also just like makes me aware of like the state of the world we're in. Like there's people that like literally just like have no life and are just like writing hate messages every day. And I just feel like
It's
that
like you
probably is
probably
like,
like a 15-year-old kid too,
yeah, I
which is the
know, but it's
saddest
like,
part to me.
yeah, but like imagine like the culture that the social media is like actually
Yeah.
creating, is like that human is somewhere like probably pretty miserable in their life to like I think we just we speak, we write, we reflect like what we are battling inside of us, what we are feeling inside of us. So when you write those things down, like all I know is it's like I do feel as if there's like some kind of like, you know, like recognition of themselves coming through. So
Definitely.
like, you know, it's, I don't think it's about me. It's like their own karma coming in. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, you know, like I feel for you. Also, like, I know from now, like, this is my truth, and I'm gonna like let this light shine no matter what. Like, you can't put it me under a bush. No, like, I'm gonna shine, right? Like, that's how I feel. Like, it's just right now, like, this is my mission. This is what I'm here on earth to do. And I also get that like the what we believe, Grace, is like very forward thinking. Like we are definitely the people that are before our time. And like, and I know that like especially being with like all the millennials on Instagram, like sometimes they can't feel that, but when we really step out in the world, we're like a very low percentage of like a big movement that is coming. And like I just don't think there's another option but to really like start to think of like your own social impact and your like service in the world.
Yeah, and I think like there's been such a big like boom of people like getting into spirituality, like I feel like since last year, just because so many people had like time on their hands to like actually think
Yeah.
about like consciousness and like what is life. And I think it's really important to be like a safe place for people to talk about that stuff, because there's so much, yeah, fear or doubt or like shame around like something that is natural.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think that it's we're blessed to know this, like this knowledge that we are the power. We control the our universe, you know, we like we have I don't wouldn't say that like I wouldn't, I don't know if I always have like, I always battle with the question of like, do I really have say in what happens in my life? You know, I think like our desires are kind of like already planted there, and that we're building towards this like journey, and that's all interwebbed into this like major like soul destination that like is leading
I
us
think it's a
all to
both kind of
mothership.
situation.
Yeah.
Like we have both free
Yeah.
will and fate.
Yeah. Well, I definitely know that the more I drop into this energy, the more attractive I am to people, the more attractive I am to my goals, and more attractive to everything that I want. Like, I think, you know, it is kind of magic because, like, for me, I practice mediumship and everything shows up. Like, bills are paid. Like, I got everything I need, you know, the relationships come in. Like, I just feel that I'm so complete, and therefore I am. And um, you know, it's definitely not positive thinking. It's like years and years of trauma, baby.
Yeah, it's like rewriting. It's not like, yeah, I
Rewriting
think a lot of people think
trauma
like
story.
if you feel good, like there's that maybe you're like pushing away other emotions, but I feel like to get to that point where you can feel good, you have to like go through the emotions.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't see that part. They don't see the part where you're like working your ass off to get to the place where you are.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, but I think that like, there's, if we lie to ourselves when we're really not feeling good, and that's the bypassing, that's the positive vibe only, like that's the toxic, like coaching culture that is like not really accurate, like time is always changing, and we are changing with that, and like doesn't mean that I'm always going to be a medium, like, and that's okay. Like we put
Well,
so
you'll
much,
always be a medium doesn't mean that you will always be a working medium.
right, like I don't know what tomorrow brings. Like my identity shifts with all of these things, and I think the struggle is like being attached to like being one thing, and like that can bring a lot of misery in your life, and especially like, you know but mediumship is also like learning to with your ancestors, and I think it's a lot of like not being scared of death, because like we typically like have a lot of fears around death, and that we don't always
Definitely.
face, and that we're constantly wanting to be connected to God and life, and we are these like decrepitating bodies, like we are dying every day, our cells are dying, and like, but death is also life, and that there actually is no death, like there is. And that's why I say like there's not really isn't like shadow, there isn't dark energy, there's just life, there's just God, like that's all there is. And then there's the lack of God, like, and not just because the light's not shining on it and we can't see it clearly. It's not, and we can understand it. The more that we understand it, the less there is those shadows or dark energy around it, So I think that it's definitely not positive energy. It's absolutely like focusing on who you are. It's more about authenticity than it is positive energy. And it's
Yes.
absolutely being so hyper vigilant about like what state of being that you're going into, like before you start taking action. Cause like, I also don't just, people also think I just like sit around and like, and I do, I'm a projector. So like, I like delegate a
Productive
lot.
rest.
I built an amazing team. Shout out to all of them. And, but I also like, I work through my stuff, but I focus very much on like the intention, the way that I'm showing up to something before I start focusing on the like technicality of things and the logistics. Because like, I just really believe if the, like my state of being, if my connection with my ancestors, with that whole connection's off, then like everything else is going to be off. It's going to be shit, like I'll have to redo it. So that's just how I've come to really use mediumship in my own life. In
Yeah,
the way that I see
I
it.
agree with that. I think it's really important. Like it's almost like in order for you to be a successful medium, I think you really have to do all this exploring and like deep healing for yourself. Like, and I think that's the part, yeah, that people don't see and they don't understand like that. Yeah, like the healing of yourself is like part of the job. You don't get paid to do that, but that is like the essential part. Like you have to keep exploring yourself and keep exploring the way that you can like view things, the way that you process things. I think like anything that inspires you like really helps you do a better job.
I mean, yeah, like I always tell my clients and students this is that like a healer, which a medium is very much a healer, is really just healing themselves.
It's pretty cool that we get to do work for ourselves while working for someone else. Very convenient.
Yeah, I love it. So
Yes. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. Um, there was one thing I wanted to ask you. So you guys should read Sloan's book. We
oh,
can't,
thank
guys can't see it, but I am holding it.
I love that you have it.
Yes, so it's called The Guide to Afterlife Communication. I bought this like when you did your pre-order, and then I thought it was really cool because I was like, looking on Amazon, and it was like a sponsored ad for me. I was like, oh, they know I would like it.
I love that.
So, but yeah, this is really cool that you got to create this book and launch it, and all these people can read it, and people that might not necessarily get to do a reading, they can still like connect with you and receive information from you. But now that you've written a book, what is the next big thing that you want to do for your career?
Oh,
What's your big dream?
my biggest dream right now is to really make this work accessible. Like, I am only one person, so I'm getting to that place where I'm tired. Like I'm ready to um just put out some trainings and things, and the way that, just even talking about some of the things we talked about today. There's so many different tools and accessibilities that we can access mediumship in. And I'm working right now behind the scenes on creating platforms through that. So my biggest goals are still in work. I'm really grateful. The book was like definitely a big milestone for me, and there's like some really, really good stuff to come. I'm like not
You don't want
feeling
to tell us?
say on everything because it's
That's
really
okay.
big,
It's okay.
and like it's a big deal, but it's like that's really, I'm really, really, really honestly just looking forward to more like in-person connections and mediumship. Like all my sessions, everything's done online. So I'm looking to start doing some more like traveling and like being in group environments. That's what I'm really, my soul's craving. But I also have some like other stuff up my sleeve.
Have you ever been like to like the spiritualist Lilydale place? I really want to go. It's
No, I
like, I
haven't,
think
but
it's
I
in New
have.
York.
Yeah, it's in New York. I've studied with some mediums from there in Lilydale, and I like Joseph Shield is like a big Lilydale medium, and I've worked with him, and I want to go. My mom's going. Like I
Oh,
think she's gonna go
cool.
this year. I've also been to the spiritual community in Florida, which is
Oh, I've
the,
seen that on
yeah,
the
I've been
internet.
there. That was cool.
Is that close to Miami or no?
It's
Like,
like
or is
probably
it the
3 or
same
4 hours.
side?
It's three or
Oh,
four
okay,
hours.
it's far.
Yeah, Casa Data.
So interesting. Well,
Yeah.
I think that will be really cool. And like, I think there's so much we can do through the internet, but it's not the same as being able to see people in person and like
Yeah.
really have it like a separation. Like, oh, I'm gonna go do this thing for a few hours, not on not on technology. And I feel like it gives us so much of a breath between all the technology we're on all the time.
Definitely.
Yes. So yeah, so thank you so much. You guys can check out Sloan on Instagram and check out her website. I'll post it in the show notes so you can check her out. And yeah, she does readings. You do human design readings. What
The
else?
human design is like more that I use for one-on-one coaching.
Oh, okay, you're not doing the one-off readings.
Yeah, but you can do a one-off with me. I have like an intro intensive where you don't have to sign up for like full 8 weeks of coaching. You can just like join in for one really intensive call where you get like a ton of information about yourself. I use human design is like your blueprint. It's similar to astrology, but uses other different like backgrounds that like really pull in your like literally like a blueprint of the way that you're designed. And the way that I use it is like to support you and to showing how you channel information, because when you channel, not everybody channels the same. So it'll like break down and really discover like how spirits are actually working with you so you can move forward as like a total superpower.
Yes. And then you do the circle. Are you guys enrolled right now? You're in mid circle.
Yeah, the next enrollment for the SCC is in January, or we'll start enrolling in December. So if there is a wait list, so if anyone's interested, can get on that.
Oh yeah, I encourage you guys to get her book and check out all her places and stuff. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thank
And we
you.
will see you guys later.
All right.